You're listening to The Last Easy Mile, a show for men who know there's more waiting but aren't sure where to begin. I'm Josh Farahi. Whether it's carving out space for adventure, being a more present and intentional father, reconnecting with your physical edge, or rediscovering a forgotten skill, this podcast is about moving from stuck to in motion. Each episode explores that in-between moment, right before the leap, when the excuses run out and something real needs to begin. We cover fatherhood, work, faith, creativity, and what it means to keep showing up, especially when no one's coming to rescue you. Welcome to The Last Easy Mile. Let's walk it together. And so I, just want to start by thanking you again, Nick. Can I call you Nick, or do you go by Nicholas?
Yeah, Nick's fine. Sure.
Nick's all right. All right. So thanks for coming, bud. I know you're a busy man and you got a lot cooking. And, the point of this episode is really just to talk cigars and the culture. And, you're obviously well respected in that world. You're probably one of the most well respected boutique cigar makers out there now. Do you still consider yourself boutique, or?
It's an interesting question, Josh. Always the word boutique. I always feel our whole industry is boutique because the handmade cigar is a boutique amongst the whole pie of the tobacco pie.
Sure.
We're less than 1% of the population that smoke handmade cigars. So in that sense, I always say that the whole handmade cigar industry is boutique. Within that realm of handmade cigars, we're definitely a mom and pop. We're not owned by a big company.
Sure.
It's basically me behind everything. So I would definitely say we're a boutique. One of my mentors in the industry always said boutique is in the heart. And I think that's a true statement. So
I like that.
yeah.
I like that. So tell us about your journey, man. I mean, you moved to Nicaragua, right? When you were in the early 2000s, and that was where your journey started, and at least, from a cigar perspective.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. So tell us how you got here, man.
Yeah, I moved to Nicaragua March 15th, 2003. I was 24, and I had started in the industry in 96 when I was starting university. I was starting university in the fall of 96, and I had just fallen in love with cigars by that time. I was 18, coming from a cigar smoking family, although they weren't in the industry. My great-grandfathers, grandfathers, uncles all smoked Connecticut cigars. So Connecticut used to make a lot of cigars back in the day. We still grow some of the best cigar tobacco in the world. So, at that age, Connecticut, that was like the coolest thing about Connecticut. It's like, I wanted to get the hell out of Connecticut. Can we swear on this show, or should I refrain?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. I try to keep it clean. But that was at that age, Connecticut, that was the coolest thing. That, and we had good basketball and we have good pizza. But I had learned everything, I really could about the history of cigars in Connecticut. And I landed a job working at a cigar shop as a freshman in college. And that was like the coolest job I could imagine getting at the time. So I worked for this amazing tobacconist called the Calabash Shop. And I worked for two ladies that basically became my second mothers. And they let me run the humidor. They had full confidence in my knowledge at that time. I was 18. I looked like I was 12. So all these old timers were coming in the humidor like, what does this kid know about cigars? And I slowly built up their trust. And so I wasn't in class. I was running the humidor. And then probably within that year or two, I met, at this time in 96, we call it within the industry, the cigar boom. Okay. So when you see the sales of cigars into the 80s, it was on a decline, a steady decline, because you had all of these post-war, World War II smokers that were getting older now, and that whole population was declining. Then you have the emergence of cigar aficionado in 92, 93. which was run by the gentleman that owns the Wine Spectator, big cigar smoker. And this was like geared towards lower Manhattan. That was the audience. So it suddenly
Right.
turned
And for those, sorry
cigars.
to interrupt you, for
Yeah,
those
no,
that's a magazine. So that was a
yeah,
publication that came out at that time, and it's still the leading, probably most respected publication on cigars now.
definitely. Definitely. So they changed the game because it shifted from your grandfather smoking a cigar and a wife beater, you know, to now this more chic cigar bars, younger crowd, more business kind of fancy watches. And so it shifted
Sure.
the whole image of cigars. So by 96 was this height of the cigar boom. And there was just cigars coming. We called them Don Nobodies. It was a really interesting time in the industry because everybody was trying to get into it. A lot of people for the wrong reasons. They were trying to make a quick buck. They
Mhm.
were trying to just put labels on cigars. The prices of tobacco in the market got all screwed up, and it kind of got weeded out by 96 into 97. And at the time, I was in charge of ordering new brands to the Humidor, and met a new company called Drew Estate that was just starting.
Yep.
And this guy from New York was just starting a little factory in Nicaragua. So this was like 97, 98. I met the owner, John Drew. He came into the shop, and then that connection lasted until 2003. We exchanged email addresses. I graduated school in 2000, and I had to get the hell out of Connecticut. So I literally circumnavigated the globe. I worked in Italy for a little while, and then I bought an around the world ticket and traveled all over the world.
Good for
And
you.
the owner of this cigar company was on my email list. And so in 2002, I was in where was I? I was in Vietnam, and then uh, China, and then Japan. And I think the light bulb went off in his head. He didn't want to be in Nicaragua all the time. So he said, "Oh, this young kid will probably come to Nicaragua." And in Japan, we talked, and he said, "I want you to be my right hand man in Nicaragua." And after traveling around the world for a while, I was in the States for a month, and then I moved to Nicaragua in March of '03, and I
Wow.
jumped in the deep end.
What was that like? Nicaragua is a little bit different than
Man,
Connecticut, right?
little bit different. I always say initially it's easier because you're excited. I was definitely
Sure.
had the travel bug. I was just turning 25, and that was one of my dreams, was to learn how to make cigars. I was in it. It became more difficult as time goes on,
That euphoria wore off, right?
culturally
Yeah.
correct. And the grind, man. So the company at that time, we were working out of the back of a house. It was a small operation, and I started learning the production process and tobacco purchasing, and started blending. And then from that time, over a 12-year period, I helped build it into the largest handmade cigar factory in Nicaragua over a 12-year period.
Wow.
So we were working out of the back of a house. I left in 2014 to start Foundation, and we were 1,600 employees strong, and we were making 100,000 cigars a day,
No
all by
way.
hand. Yeah. So
Yeah. And you were in
I
Nicaragua this whole time?
Yeah, the majority of my time from '03 to 2015, I would say 90% of my time was in Nicaragua. So I would
Oh, dude, that's
come up to the
brutal.
States for holidays and,
Sure.
see family, but most of my time was in Nicaragua. And since then, it was a tough decision to leave. I had a great job. I got promoted to the VP of international operations. I was the head of all the tobacco purchasing, blending, production, excuse me. And it was tough, to leave. But at the time, we were facing regulations from the FDA in 2013
Okay.
around that time. And one of the things that was being played with was in regulations, if you didn't have brands that entered into the market at a certain date, you would not be able to enter brands into the
So
market.
it's a cutoff date.
Cutoff date. So I said to myself, I couldn't possibly, not be able to start a company or my own brands one day. So that kind of prompted me to leave and start my own thing.
Wow. So you left probably a pretty cushy job. I mean, granted you were in Nicaragua, but um, that's a big company you left behind.
Big
That
time.
took some courage, man. How scary was that?
It was scary, man. I mean, I have to say it took me, a year and a half at least to make the decision. Most of the team in Nicaragua had become like family. Especially a foreigner living overseas, you're working with people, those people come closest to you.
Yeah.
Um,
They probably
so
adopted
that
you in some ways, you know what I mean?
Man, if it wasn't for the Nicaraguan people, I would have never stayed. It's like you hear Nicaragua and it still has this kind of harsh negative connotation from everything that happened during Iran Contra and the 80s and all
Right.
that. But the people of Nicaragua, it's all heart, man. And if it wasn't for the Nicaraguan people, I would not be where I'm at right now. I mean, that's just a fact,
Yeah, you were there a
you
long
know.
time, man. So
Long time.
yeah.
It's my second home. So yeah. Of course, when I'm doing this, I'm starting to get my throat's starting to get clogged up. So
Yeah,
I
it's a great
apologize.
endorsement. Great endorsement for cigar smoking.
Oh God.
That's okay.
It's because
Don't
I'm
worry about
talking
it.
too much throughout the course of the day here. It's terrible.
uh, no, I'm just giving you a hard time. So you left, pretty cushy job, and then with the dream of starting your own Foundation Cigar Company. So tell us about that. What was that like, and how hard was it to get that off the ground?
It's our 10-year anniversary in September, and I'm doing a lot of reflecting, and it's like a blur, some of it, and
Sure.
then a lot of it, of course, it's very vivid. But I just, I entered with one blend and brand, which was called Way Wednesday, probably one of the most difficult words for
Right.
gringos to pronounce. But
That's because it's spelled with G and then the two dots on top of
GU,
the G,
yes,
and
the
it's like,
umlauts,
yeah,
the
yeah,
umlauts. Yeah, but I purposely did it because nobody knew who I really was in the marketplace at that time. The people that knew me were the hardcore, we call them the cigar geeks, but the hardcore
right.
cigar guys, the guys that are paying attention and, want to know the stories. Shops that I've known throughout the years, people that have visited Nicaragua, shops that visited Nicaragua. So it was really this target market of consumers and shops that I knew appreciate authenticity. And that's one of the key things I think in the cigar world is
Yeah,
authenticity.
sure.
And it's not something you could buy or market all the time. And I think you see that with other brands or famous people trying to make brands or
Right.
people with big pocketbooks. You
It
can
falls
spend all
flat,
the
right?
money. It
Yeah,
falls flat because I don't think
yeah.
it connects with the consumer. So I said, I've been living in Nicaragua. I want to pay homage to this place that's become my second home, not only with the blend, of course, which I knew I wanted to do an all Nicaraguan blend to start, but also through the culture. And there was nothing that represented the heart and soul of Nicaraguan culture more than El Huehuense, which was this folkloric dance. We think it was created around the 1500s. It's the oldest indigenous satire of the Western Hemisphere, recognized by UNESCO. I had no idea about it before moving to Nicaragua. Most people don't. So I felt kind of an obligation to want to share this. And my art director, Alex Garcia, is a good friend of mine. He's from the north of Nicaragua. We've been friends since I moved to Nicaragua. A lot of similar interests in music and in art. So brought him the idea, you know, kind of orchestrated what I wanted, and it just connected, and we created this really traditional, what we call full dress box, kind of this old Cuban style dress box, and a beautiful blend. And we launched at our annual trade show in July 2015. We started shipping September 2015, and then I just every year just started adding to the portfolio. I quickly realized, and because of the FDA, I had three other brands that I needed to get into the market before this cutoff date. So the next year, we ended up launching three other brands: Tabernacle, Charter Oak, and the Upsetters. And that really gave us the portfolio. My whole idea, coming from a cigar shop, having worked a cigar shop, was to develop a portfolio. If you've worked a cigar shop, you know you have different palettes that come into this.
Right.
Not everybody likes the same thing. And that's the
Nope.
key with cigar smoking. You have to find the right blend. And I
Yep.
think that turns off a lot of people that don't smoke. You know, they're not presented with the right blend.
That's exactly right. So you
Yeah.
jump into the pool and you get, it's like kind of like wine or whiskey or, similar
Yeah.
in the way that your palate kind of accepts certain flavors. And
Yep.
if you jump into a really robust, kind of stronger cigar and your palate is more adept to maybe something more smooth and creamy, it's not going to be a good experience. You know what I mean? So,
At all. Yeah.
yeah. So I
You
tell
get
people
it.
that are, starting to smoke or are interested in the ritual of smoking, which is kind of how I feel about smoking cigars. It's not like having a cigarette or I don't know, smoking a joint or whatever. It is completely different. It's a ritual even when you're by yourself. You
Hmm.
got to start testing out different things and don't give up on it. I know it sounds
Hmm.
weird because it's like a vice almost, but I don't consider it, a vice of too deep of concern. But nevertheless, it's like you got to stick to it, learn about the culture, how to light it, what you like, and so you seem like so I'll put it to you like this: you come off as a creative, okay, meaning that you're in the soul of the cigar. And how many other guys have you met that are like cut of the same cloth, or is that? Do you think that's? I don't want you to have to pat yourself on the back. I'll put you on the hot seat. But is that your kind of superpower? Is it you're kind of a creative, soulful guy, and that's what's coming in at the end product?
I think, yeah. I mean, that's what you're getting, Josh, it is my heart and soul. You know, this company, the brands, I'm not married and I don't have kids. So it literally is, there's probably a little too much, into my work, in that I am kind of putting it all out there. And it started with blending for me. That's where it starts always, is with the tobacco. So
Right.
the branding to me is just a complement of the blend. I've got to learn from my mistakes, of course, but also others' mistakes, and being in the shop, then having to see the production side of things. So I've got to kind of see, I think I have a unique perspective in that sense, that
Hmm.
I've got to experience kind of all aspects of the industry. I always say there's three worlds to the cigar industry. Farming, that's a whole world. I don't claim to be a farmer. That's not where I spend my 12 hours a day. I'm not in the
Right.
fields. I I come in at the easier part, in that I'm inspecting, I'm
Right. Right.
grading. I'm not doing the day-to-day toiling, but the farm is one world. Fermentation, production, that's a whole nother world. Sales and marketing, distribution, those are the three
Yeah.
worlds. So I think I have a unique perspective in that I have I don't farm, but I know it. And then I have a good grasp. I've learned a lot over the past 10 years of the sales and distribution side, which it's amazing. It's a whole nother world, man. I mean,
Of course. Yeah.
it's
And it's probably a bit cutthroat and a bit competitive, and then you got to navigate the regulations. And
it's very competitive. Another mentor in the business that put it to me perfect. I think, because it's very friendly. It is unlike many other industries in that,
so not
you
cutthroat.
know, it's here. This will explain it properly. He
Okay.
said, the cigar industry is like we're all hanging out and we're playing cards, and everybody's getting along. But under the table, everybody's got their gun drawn.
I like that.
And
That's a
to me,
good analogy.
that's a perfect, yeah. So that's the perfect analogy, I think. So
It's like it's a gentleman's game, I guess, is what you're saying. But there's still
it
some.
is, it is. But there's definitely it could be cutthroat behind the scenes, but yeah. I mean, recently, our production partner experienced a fire in Nicaragua, but everybody came together to help. Who needed molds? We needed rolling tables. So it's really definitely a community in a sense in Esteli amongst all the factories because we're all in the same boat together. So again, there is that competitiveness, but in times of trouble, it was amazing to see everybody come together and help.
What So how do you build a cigar? Even though I smoke cigars, I still know very little about the process and how you get, your flavor profiles in there.
So you're talking about more like the blend, Josh,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
is that what you're talking about?
well, both, right? Right. I mean, there's an outer wrapper, and then there's an inner wrapper, and then there's the blend, more or
Yeah.
less. And I may be getting that wrong, but how do you go about putting those flavor profiles together? How do you influence a cigar's flavor? How about that? That's a better question.
Yeah, so you have the wrapper as the outer leaf. Has to be more flawless, of course. The vein structure. When you see a wrapper leaf, it's like silk.
Right.
It's elastic. The vein structure is much thinner. Usually the cellular structure of the leaf is much thinner. Then you have the binder, which is under the wrapper, and then it's holding together the filler. Say in Nicaragua, the guts of the cigar, which is made up of the blend. And amongst those, you have different seed varieties. You have different countries of origin. You have different farms. Most of my blends, I concentrate using predominantly Nicaraguan filler tobaccos. So a lot of my cigars, you'll see predominantly Nicaraguan, and then I'll use combinations of binders and wrappers. This is why Nicaragua. Why Nicaragua, right? Nicaragua grows some of the most amazing filler tobaccos in the world, and it is because of the climate. You have the most active volcanoes in Central America. Amongst that has it developed different valleys in the north of Nicaragua that grow incredible tobaccos. Esteli, which is 2 hours north from the capital. Then you have Condega, which is another 30, 45 minutes north of Esteli. And then the Jalapa Valley, which is closer to Honduras. So these three areas, amongst them, Nicaragua, the diversity of the plant is unlike, in my opinion, any other country that grows cigar tobaccos. So what I mean by
So
that is
each of those valleys create a different profile, is what you're saying.
they do. And amongst each of those valleys, the plant's diversity. So typically, I don't know if you've heard these terms before, your bottom leaves are seco. This is what we
Right.
classify. Those are your milder leaves. So they're away from the sun, they're getting more shade, they're lighter in texture. Then you move to the middle of the plant, you have viso. That's heavier, more sun exposure, more vein structure, cellular structure. And then as you go to the top, that's ligero. So amongst those three different parts of the plant, the diversity of flavor is unlike any other country. So for example, in the Dominican, their strongest top leaves would be more like Nicaragua's middle leaves.
Oh, I see.
You understand
I
what I'm
see.
saying?
Yeah, I do. I do.
So
Yeah.
even in Cuba, that diversity of strength and flavor does not exist.
Is that a result of the soil, or is that a result of the sun, where it lies on the equator?
Both. So it's the rich volcanic soil, especially in Esteli. You have this really dark, heavier volcanic soil. And then that sort of gets a little bit lighter as you go up to Condega and then Jalapa. So Jalapa can be much sweeter compared to Esteli, where you're getting a lot more strength.
And that variety as a creator probably gives you a lot of tools to blend flavors, right? I mean, ultimately, you're dealing with more of a flavor palette across the board. Um, that's a huge advantage, I would imagine.
Huge, huge. And that's why when I first got to Nicaragua, right, Josh, I was smoking a lot of Dominicans. Okay. Dominicans in '03, '96 dominated. My first 6 months in Nicaragua, I started seeing shipments that were intended for the Dominican. Then it started to click with some of my favorite cigars that I was smoking from the Dominican were actually blending with Nicaraguan fillers to get that body and strength. So then it started kind of coming together, and then I just started learning about these different growing regions, the seed varieties. That's a whole nother seed variety is a whole nother, diversity of
Variable, yeah,
flavor profile.
yeah.
Yeah. And then you deal with binders and the wrappers, which changed the whole game. I mean, I'm kind of more known for the Connecticut broadleaf. To me, the Connecticut broadleaf combination with Nicaraguan fillers, to me, that's
Right.
one of the most amazing combinations you have because you have the earthy sweetness from the Connecticut River Valley and the broadleaf combined with the rich filler tobaccos from Nicaragua. I mean, that that's the blends I personally love. Yeah.
Funny enough, Nick, I've been smoking cigars for, I don't know, 7, 8 years. I didn't get into it until my mid-30s, but I gravitated straight to Nicaraguans. That was just my favorite flavor profile. So on this, I mean, I feel in a spectrum of flavors, it's kind of strong plus or medium strong from a flavor
Yeah.
profile. Am I correct on that assessment?
You are. Yeah, you are. You
Yeah.
are.
So
Definitely.
so the lighter stuff and Cubans to me are a bit overrated. So shoot me if you will, if all the Cuban
I
lovers out
probably
there.
won't disagree there.
Yeah. But some of the milder stuff just feels like it's not enough. Like it's not.
You
I
want
don't
more.
feel anything. And yeah, and then the dark
Yeah.
stuff kind of just knocks me on my ass. But if you had a starter cigar in your repertoire for someone who's interested in starting to pick this up and because it's a beautiful hobby, right? Or tradition or
Yeah.
ritual, because as a family man, number one, it provides me something to do where I can just shut everything down.
Yep.
And so for me, either when I'm celebrating something and I need a moment to myself or with close friends, or if I'm, having a moment that something is challenging or I'm dealing with a huge challenge, it's actually a nice time for me to get away. And so for you, what would you recommend as a good entry cigar? And everyone's different. So, right. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
tough question, but in your Rolodex of products and cigars, what do you recommend as a starter cigar?
It's a great question because I talk about this with my team a lot. And interestingly enough, we're starting to open up some European accounts. They're predominantly
Hmm.
Cuban smokers. It's a
Sure.
much lighter profile. So this comes up a lot. We make the Wise Man Corojo, which to me is like right down the middle. It's not overwhelming. It's not super mild. It's like the perfect medium. To me, it reminds me of what Cubans used to smoke like, because a lot of times it's the same way. When I smoke a Cuban, you're waiting for more. You're
Yeah, that's right.
it's just sometimes too floral, but you're waiting for more. So the Wise Man, I think, is good because a novice smoker could enjoy it, and also a connoisseur can enjoy it. I also make one called the Charter Oak Connecticut Shade. To me, that's my homage to Connecticut cigars. It's a beautiful, smooth, creamy Connecticut shade, Nicaraguan fillers. You can make mild cigars out of Nicaraguan fillers. So
Yeah.
it's just, it all depends on the blend. But those are the two I would say. And then also we make a beautiful cigar called Highclere Castle, which is probably one of our most, I think, elegant and sophisticated, smooth, milder blends. Um, Again, tons of flavor, but definitely on the milder portfolio. That's I would definitely recommend for, guys that are just starting.
Given that you've worked at a smoke shop, by the way, for any entrepreneurs or anyone trying to start anything, the fact that you have experienced the business soup to nuts, meaning you were in the front end retail and then you went all the way to the back end, that's just such a huge advantage. And, having that
Yeah.
experience, being face front to the customer. So you were either on purpose or with good fortune or both, really took like the best path to get to where you're going, or where you've gotten. So kudos to you. And anyway, I got sidetracked there. But
No, that's all right.
what I wanted to ask was, like, as a guy that wants to get into this and really has nowhere to start, what would you recommend? Like if one of your buddies was like, Nick, I want to do this, how do I get smart?
Working a shop is a knowledge, an experience with this in itself. So within the shop, you're able to experience the consumer, center dealing with the consumers. You have
Oh, no, no, no.
access.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Nick. I asked the question the right way. If someone wants to get into cigar smoking,
Oh, I'm sorry.
not
Yeah.
not yeah, that's okay. That's okay. You're really generous in your thought that others are going to try to go out and accomplish what you've done. And who knows, maybe they are, but I wouldn't ask you to share your secret sauce on publicly.
I
But no,
get
if
that.
someone
I get
wants
that
to,
question more than you would
do
think.
you
It's
really?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because such a
yeah,
niche, I mean, that's a tough business to get into. But,
yeah.
um, yeah, no, if one of your buddies like, "Look, I want to start smoking cigars, how do I get smart?" Like, because it is intimidating. I mean, when I first started, you walk into the shop and it's like, dude, I had no fucking clue that there was 10,000 varieties of cigars, and I don't even know what's what. Like, what
Dude,
resources, or what advice do you have for guys?
listen, it's really intimidating. It's you bring it up and I talk about it with my team is because it's the same way with me and wine. I don't know wine.
Yeah,
I walk
yeah,
into
me
a
neither.
wine store and I say to myself, this is what it must feel like for a cigar smoker.
Yeah,
And I try to communicate with the shops too, is that, finding a great tobacconist is huge. Like if you're able to find a local shop that has knowledge and people working there that are educated and open. I always try to talk to shops too, because sometimes it gets a little clicky within our
yeah,
industry and this and how important it is to be open and friendly to new guys coming into those humidors because it is overwhelming. So if you got a shop, I would always say go to, your local shop and
hmm
find a local shop that is a real tobacconist, that's not just somebody standing behind a cash register. That's huge. I think online right now, it's amazing the wealth of, video, how to cut cigars. Huge.
right. YouTube is a great resource.
It's a huge resource of learning, and there's a lot of great videos and educational. So, I mean, just that as a basic to start. Of course, if it was a friend of mine, I'd bring him through all
Yeah,
this, through all this. But
yeah, sure.
yeah, if you don't have a Nick close by, the shop I would say would be the place to start. And finding the right shop. And I remember when I was starting, 18, some shops I went into at that time, they they weren't fond of helping out, a young guy. It was like
Right.
they look at me sideways. And then I moved and I found another shop, and I ended up finding a shop that was more you know into being a tobacconist, and so that's huge. And then I would say finding the right blend. Like you said, you have to find, I think a lot of people, they get a cigar at a wedding or somebody, hey, it's sitting out in their drawer for a month, and then they're
That's
out
right.
drinking, and then they light up a cigar when they're drinking, and then they have this bad
Yeah,
experience. So, you know, finding the right blend is going to be crucial. And I liked how you put it. You said, like, stay in there, and
yeah,
you got to get kind of accustomed to it, because tobacco is a powerful plant, man. I mean, this is an
yep,
ancient, powerful plant. And your first experiences, you got to adjust to the light, man. You know, you
that's
can't
right.
just, and I think, if you can get the right tobacconist, that would make a world of difference.
Yeah, I mean that's how I got into it. There's a shop down here in Los Angeles on the west side called the Lone Wolf.
Oh,
And
yeah. Lone Wolf.
do you know David from Lone Wolf? Have you talked to him
I
before?
I've talked to him, and I think we met at a show.
He's a great guy,
Yeah.
man. I love
Yeah.
David.
Lone Wolf's been there. That's a staple, man.
It's a staple. Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was started by, what was it, Chuck Norris and
Chuck Norris and Belushi.
Belushi, that's right. And
Yeah.
then David's been
Dude, I used to
running and
sell
owning
their
it.
cigar in 96. They started that brand in
Oh no
96.
shit.
And I used to
Yeah.
smoke Lone Wolf. We used to have a picture of them, because the owners of the shop that I worked for had it. They met him at a trade show, and we had the Belushi and Chuck Norris signature on there hanging behind the register.
Yep, yep.
So
So Dave he was my
th-
ambassador to cigars,
that's a good
and
good person to have.
yeah, and he cares, man. I mean, like, you need to find someone like that. Like, I came in and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna explain everything." Like, he spent like at least 30 minutes with me over the first or second time there, over the course of just explaining stuff, and he wasn't trying to push stuff on me and saying buy this. So he's like, just try one.
Yeah.
Don't buy a box. Don't trust me. And he
Yeah.
kind of he got me into and that, there's a lounge there, and it's just
Yeah. It's a beautiful
it's really
shop.
great. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Next time you're in town, you have to give me a ring and we'll go give Dave a hard time.
Yeah, that would be great.
Um
Yeah, if you see him, send my regards.
I will. I will. I'll swing over there sometime. Now after this conversation, I'm gonna have to have a cigar. I'm
There
jonesing
you
for
go.
one already.
Same here.
Uh, um they so what, you know, you have all these blends, and I've read that you kind of, you talked about the folklore. What other inspirations go into your cigars? And if a lot of people don't know how much time and energy goes into the flavor profile and brand
Yeah.
and of these cigars, what do
Yeah.
you draw on inspiration wise, and how many people test the flavor before? Is it just you? Are you like the gatekeeper, or or do you have some
Yeah.
trusted palates that you lean into?
I'm the gatekeeper, man. I
Yeah.
gotta love it, Josh. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I have to, what I've seen sometimes, Josh, in other companies and bigger companies, not that I don't get feedback, or my whole office smokes them. And I
Hmm.
get their feedback, of course. But what happens sometimes in bigger companies is, it's like all these opinions start coming in, and then the blend starts becoming something else. Um,
Sure.
and it like, I gotta love it in order for me to feel like, I can release it. And I feel like I have a grasp of the different profiles. So if you look at the portfolio of my blends, the idea is coming from the retail shop is, if you only had foundation in your humidor, do you have a blend for every person that walks in that door? So
Right.
from flavor profile to then also price point. So that's like the whole portfolio gears towards that. And then to my infused, I have an infused cigar. That's for, you get customers that come in, they want an infused cigar.
Hmm.
Um, so, and I like, I definitely have my personal preferences, but I also enjoy a milder cigar. I enjoy a
Yeah, there's
medium
a time and
bodied
place.
cigar,
Yeah, yeah.
for all of it. I don't have, if I have to choose, I'm probably going for the heavier blends that just because I've become accustomed, I think, to heavier tobaccos a lot over the years. So I hope I'm answering your question. So yeah,
No,
I
no,
am the
you are. Yeah.
gatekeeper.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have my process of blending, over the years now. I've come up with my own techniques and kind of
Hmm.
formulas that I've seen that have worked for me. Um, that are just right. I usually start with a wrapper. Usually I'm trying to I just released a cigar last year called Oxum that uses a Sumatra Ecuador wrapper. Never
Hmm.
used Sumatra Ecuador on a product that came to market. I've always smoked it behind the scenes. So I usually start there and then kind of craft what I'm looking for in a blend from the wrapper. That's
Right.
kind of where I so, Habano Ecuador, I'm sorry, Sumatra Ecuador has always been kind of like this. It had this kind of sour notes to it. It's just the kind of
What makes it
combination.
Sumatra? What?
So the seed was brought from Indonesia to Ecuador in like the late 1800s. So
I
Ecuador has
see.
become one of the premier growing regions for wrapper tobacco
Hmm.
because of this consistent cloud cover, Josh, during growing season. So in order to grow wrapper, like traditionally in Connecticut and Cuba, we grow it under shaded tents. We call it
Uh,
tapado, right? That was developed in Connecticut in the early 1900s. So in the early 1900s, Connecticut tobacco sales were losing out to the Dutch who were growing in Indonesia. So the Dutch
I
had
see.
massive growing operations in Indonesia, and they were getting huge results with wrapper tobaccos because they were growing in the jungle. So they
With
were
the cloud
cut.
cover. Yeah.
Well, no, this was being in Indonesia. It was the jungle was shading, right?
Ah,
Okay, so it was
got it.
providing shade, so it was producing a lighter leaf. Okay, so the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, in order to compete with them, develops a seed called Connecticut Shade, which was hybridized between broadleaf, Sumatra, and Cuban. They hybridized it, gave birth to Connecticut Shade, and then they started covering the fields with cheesecloth tents to mimic
Seriously, I had no idea.
the Indonesian shade from the jungle.
Huh.
This created a microclimate under the tents that was 10% higher humidity and made for wrapper tobacco. So Connecticut Shade 1900s dominates throughout the 1900s. And then, coincidentally enough, the Dutch in the late 1980s took the Connecticut shade seed to Ecuador, and Ecuador was cloudy all the time. And those clouds acted as
Ah,
a shade, and they started producing massive amounts of wrapper tobacco.
got it.
Sorry for
Got
the.
it.
I hope I'm not getting too
No,
far in the weeds.
no, not at all.
It's
I'm very
crazy.
fat. Well, because when the first time I smoked a Connecticut, I think Dave Lone Wolf was like, "Yeah, this is a Connecticut wrapper," and then I'm like, Connecticut, United States, Connecticut. Is there a South American country called Connecticut? Like what? So it was
Yeah.
so random to me that of all places that Connecticut is a huge producer, and I never really looked into how or why that evolved. So you
Excuse
just
me.
answered. It's okay. You just
Connecticut,
answered.
specifically for cigar tobaccos, the glacier receded 10,000 years ago and left the Connecticut River Valley. Okay. So if you look at all the other cigar tobacco regions, they're predominantly more volcanic in nature. Connecticut, because of the glacier, Connecticut means along the Great Tidal River. That's what the word Connecticut means. It's a Mohegan word.
Okay.
The river, Connecticut River, is 406 miles long. It starts in the very corner of the northeast part of New Hampshire on the border of Canada.
Right.
It's the border of Vermont and New Hampshire. It cuts through Massachusetts into Connecticut, into the Long Island Sound. That was formed because of a gigantic glacier 15,000 years ago. The glacier turned into a lake. The lake turned into the river. The lake bed settled into 30,000 acres north of Hartford, Connecticut, in the Connecticut River Valley. All of the
Okay.
loam from the bed of the lake, the glacier lake, settled in this area and made it
Oh, I
perfect for
see.
growing cigar tobacco.
I see. That's interesting,
That's
man.
wh-
Like so
that's
random.
why Connecticut it is. But now the rest of North Carolina, Virginia, that's all cigarette style because you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
grow cigar tobaccos
Cigar.
don't really grow
Right.
there. It's just Connecticut that
That's
grows.
interesting, man. No, I
Yeah.
appreciate that because I've always like why the fuck Connecticut? Connecticut. But it makes sense. I mean, there's a glacier, pulls back, was a bed, there was a lake, and then all that nutrients gets kind of concentrated in
Correct.
this one valley, and then you got a
Yeah.
growing opportunity.
I'll send you an article I wrote. I tried to keep it fairly simple, but it's all
Okay.
about Connecticut and kind of answers this question, why
Send it to me. I'll put it
Connecticut?
in the description
Yeah.
on the show too. I'll share with everyone.
Yeah. I think you'll really like it. Yeah.
I appreciate that. As we
No
wrap
problem.
here in a few minutes, Joe Rogan gave you a shout out not too long ago. What was that like? How did that impact your business?
Dude, Joe's, I don't know how many, I can't count him anymore, but he's given me so
Yeah,
many shout outs.
he has.
It was actually through a friend over via that went to Lone Wolf cigar shop.
No,
And
full
two of my
circle.
friends, full circle. And yeah, it was just before, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. And he just really took to smoking cigars, and this buddy was able to make it happen. And Joe just moved to Austin and got him a
Hmm.
couple of boxes. We had done some hand painted boxes for him, my art
Nice.
director, and then he just really started getting into cigars, and I ended up making him his own blend using Connecticut broadleaf
Oh, I didn't know that.
tobacco. Yeah, it's the JRE. It's a Connecticut broadleaf blend. I kind of got the sense, again, from just watching him, of what he liked to drink, food, kind of what his flavor profile would be. And he seems to really like him, man. It's just an
Oh,
honor
he
to
loves
see
them.
him.
He talks about them all
Yeah.
the time. So his blend is available on your portfolio, or is it just for him?
No, that's just made for Joe. Yeah. If Joe ever
Good
gives
for
me the
Joe.
word and wants to sell them, of course, guys
Good
ask
for
me all the time.
Joe.
I said, guys, I don't own the JRE logo,
Oh
man.
no.
So
Oh no.
I say you
Well,
got to
there's a
ask
certain level
Joe.
of genius you have if you can tell from someone what their diet is, what they like to drink, and then you can backfill that palate with a flavor profile in a cigar, man. So kudos to you. Um,
Thanks, man. Appreciate
you've
it.
done some really big things and continue doing them.
Trying.
I have nothing but respect for guys like you, like, moving to Nicaragua and then leaving a amazing, settled, secure job to go chase your dream. It's like,
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's really good stuff. And we all
Thanks,
need that
Josh.
extra kick in the ass from time to time. And you're one of the guys I'm going to think about when I need to, turn on my rap music and head to a meeting to crush it. I'll be like, fucking Nick did it. I can do it too. So good for you.
Thanks, dude.
Um, Thanks for your
Appreciate it.
time. And last question: is there any way you sell direct to consumer, or do we have to go through
Yeah.
a third
So
party?
yeah, we don't go direct to consumer, so it's kind of been traditional that way in our industry. Is
Hmm.
there's not a lot of direct to consumer, so we have a great store locator on our website. So we try to
And what is
support
that?
brick and
What?
mortars, foundationcigars.com, and just a store locator. You put in your zip code. There's a great map, so it makes it kind of easy to find a local shop. So we also have online partners, but we definitely, coming from brick and mortar, I
Right.
try to support our brick and mortars as much as possible. Yeah.
Right on. Mm.
Foundationcigars.com, and you can
Thanks,
find
Nick.
us.
All right, my
Yeah, do
man. I
me a favor,
appreciate you.
send me your address, email me your address.
Oh, come on.
All right,
You
come
don't need
on,
to
I gotta
send me
hook it up,
anything.
and send me your t-shirt size too. I gotta hook you up with
You're
some
the man.
swag. Come on.
You're the
I should have
best,
done it
Nick.
before this meeting, but
No,
it's been
I
too
appreciate
crazy.
you. That's generous of you. Thank you so much for
My
your time,
pleasure,
man.
man.
I appreciate it. Best of luck, and
Thank you,
we'll see.
Josh.
We'll see you on the other side, man.
All right, man. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks for walking the last easy mile with me. If something in today's episode moved you, good. That means there's still something alive in you worth pursuing. But don't let it end here. Send the message, try the thing, start the shift. If this episode helped, like, subscribe, and share with someone else who might be feeling stuck. You never know who needs to hear exactly this. I'm Josh Farahi. Until next time, keep walking.